fake news now and allow this trend to continue. Because as a matter of fact, we have some news, online newspapers that are beginning to also, they are beginning to follow this trend. They just post some news that are not it. Most of them can delete later. But before they delete, it would have gone so wide, and the effect will always be there. So I want to have
How they use platforms. I don't think our problem is the platforms. It is how those platforms are used. We talked about giving people information, being proactive. There's a problem with those that worked in government. They don't want to give you the information. And that this aura of arrogance that public servants, carry around themselves, that they do not want to give information. And when you don't want to give information, people create information for themselves. And somebody saying, what are we going to do about fake news? I'm a journalist. I practiced in the 90s before the new media came on board. The truth of the matter is that people are hungry for news. There's nothing you're going to do about the social media in terms of censorship. Forget it. It's not possible. What I do in my house is what I do in my house. What you're going to do, give me good governance. Let me have roads to my house. I cannot be generating my own electricity, making all these things that people take for granted. And when I talk about it, you say I'm providing fake news. And so I think the people who are responsible for let them do what is right. When they do what is right and communicate effectively, it becomes the onus is on the public to begin to respond. So the issue is that the people who we have given responsibility to take care of us are not doing that. And when we ask them questions, maybe the language we use to ask, because an angry person, somebody who is hungry, you cannot guarantee how he's going to talk. So when the person speaks in that language, understand where he's coming from, instead of tagging it fake news. This is the issue. We are not addressing, we are facing the symptoms. When you come home and your child is hungry and is crying, are you going to beat him for crying? You won't beat the child for crying. Why are you crying? If he's hungry, give him food. This is what is happening to our generation, our young people. They are completely disillusioned because of poor governance. So they are feeling it. And when they talk about it, maybe not in the right language, we call it fake news. So what I'm saying is that we say good governance, social media for good governance. Let us talk about what are indices of good governance. First of all, quality information, proactive information. My brother who works with the government, for instance, when you come to this, what aura do you bring along? Do you bring along the aura that you know it all, that they must hear it? So when you come with that kind of ambience, so what do you expect the people to do? So it's all about us. It's all about us giving ourselves the right kind of, because it is, even those people who are in the military, it is our military. It's all about us. Until we take ownership about us, to be like them versus us. So I want us to take care of this particular issue, good governance. Give the people good governance. When they ask questions, how have you used our money? Don't just begin to antagonize them or say they are asking stupid questions. Tell them what you've used. But because most times government like to operate in secrecy, and so when people are beginning to dig into those things, the problems are. So please, the people at the high table should tell us, how do we get the government people to understand that things have changed? They need to talk. They need to communicate with the people with respect. And when asked stupid questions, they should answer them responsibly. That's my own thing.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you for this opportunity. Okay, my name is Precious.
Very quick, yeah. Yeah, very quick, please. No comments. Just if you have a question.
Okay,
Yeah,
I have a question.
Yes.
Bob. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just one strategy for fake news and hate speech, and then I ask my question. Right? See, it's been like a repeating question. Okay, so how about okay, the means that this fake news and hate speech comes out is through the new media, social media, Twitter, and all of that. How about the government parastatals that are doing the good work, create a team. Now, in this team, they have several bloggers, and so darkness is not a force, right? Darkness is only the absence of light. So how about shining more light on the good you do, and that would expel darkness? I think that would work. We follow. We are humans. We follow. So when we don't see the light being expelled, we are just drawn to darkness. And someone said something that it looks like we have so much negative energy. It's because we are not seeing more positive energy. So I think we should shift our focus from trying to fight or trying to censor. We can't control people. This is freedom of speech, right? So we should switch our focus from trying to control people's reactions and focus more on showing the good we do. When we have more good information coming out, we would automatically retweet that. That's the suggestion. Then for the question, Nigeria in the global space has been given, if you check any top 10 terrible list, Nigeria will be there. I don't know why it's so bad. I don't think we are so bad, right? So my question is, how is the Ministry of Communication, how is the Nigerian government generating statistics and data for Nigeria, for Nigerians? Because I looked at Instagram today and I saw top 10 unbearable nations for women. Nigeria was there, and I'm like, how? Do you understand? So how are we generating this data? Now, are we partnering with any international organization to bring out relevant information and data for Nigeria? Because we are not doing it. Okay, I don't think we are doing so much with data and statistics. That's why they can impose their whatever information they gather. So what is the Ministry of Communications doing as regards data and statistics to help? Because if you go online now and try to find statistics about Nigeria or about you would find little or nothing. So what are they doing about data and statistics to help us and to help our global? Thank you.
Okay. I don't know who wants to go first with the answers. Mr. Ajichola, maybe. Oh, okay. So for this, well, yeah. So it was a challenge. I'm not sure that I disagree with you. You know that in terms of facts and friendship, you know, I think it makes perfect sense to think that you can convince people a lot more when they kind of, you know, when they see things from your own point of view. And I think that's what the friendship is. We're standing together, the same perspective, looking at the same thing, as opposed to just you saying, look at that thing, which is what I guess, you know, when you say, so I don't think it's, the way I understand it is that, look, you need to get people to your side. You can't just stand on and order them to believe. I think that's what that statement actually means. You can't order people. I can't order you to believe that government is working. You know, and it's what novelists have always said. You know, you show, don't tell. It's the #1 rule for anybody who's writing a novel or a short story, that you want to show instead of telling. So instead of saying this man is sad, show me the tears that have, you know, or his face, the way his face fell, you know, or the way his shoulders fell. When you see that, you've shown me that this person is sad. Instead of telling me, it's easier to believe what you've shown than. So I think that's the point that I take from that. The second thing that I think concerns that I can talk about is the statistics matter. And I think that, you know, in terms of statistics, the NBS, National Bureau of Statistics, has been doing a particularly fantastic job in the last few years. And I think it's important. And, you know, there are many other government agencies also that put out information. One of the things I've noticed, though, is that people typically don't go to government websites. You know, people typically don't go, and you know, there are some sites. So not all sites, but there are some sites that are very good in terms of information. I can give you an example of NCC, for example. I don't think there's anybody left from the NCC here. You know, if you go to the NCC website, Nigerian Communications Commission, you will get data on a monthly basis. So things that have to do, of course, under their purview, number of users of the GSM lines, mobile connected, you know, all of that information. So you will find a number of government agencies that have excellent data on their website. The CBN website is also very good in terms of financial data. You know, FR. So you will, but I think for some reason, a lot of people maybe in the past have visited sites and have given up. So people don't tend to not go to government websites. But I think that, you know, there are many hidden gems amongst government websites that should be, even though I must acknowledge that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in terms of government websites to get them up to date. In the UK, for example, there's a single site, gov.uk, where everything you want is available. And of course, another lesson is that government websites should offer not just information, but services. Because people are more drawn to services than just information. If you want to get a passport, you go to gov.uk in the UK. That's where you will essentially, everything you need to do about applying for a passport is there. So I think even for government, the lesson is that we need to shift from just information to services. If getting your national ID card or driver's license and all that, actually, FRNC, you can actually apply online now for your license. I don't know how many people are aware of that. You know, and of course, once people begin to know that if I need a new driver's license, I can go to the website, then I think that's where the change or the shift starts to happen. But I think some things are, some agencies, of course, are way ahead of others. If you want to get a visa on arrival, if you go to the immigration website, it tells you what to do. You send an email to a certain email with the documents listed. Within 48 hours, you get a reply that tells you that, look, with a document that you send to the business partner who's coming, you know, and they show up with that at the airport and they're allowed in. But I think we need to do a lot more awareness actually about these things, that look, government services are moving online and things are changing. And I think the final thing I wanted to say is that list you said about, you know, lists are a journalistic thing. I used to be a journalist, and I know that, look, if you want people to click on your website or visit your website, you know, lists are very simple things to do, and sometimes they don't have any basis whatsoever. So a list is not necessarily a statistic. You know what I mean? I can say that I want to do a list of the 5 best states in Nigeria, and without any basis to it, I can just come up with a list because I know people will click on it. You know, so not all that information is based on statistics. Sometimes it's just somebody who's trying to do a marketing thing, you know, or something of that nature. So it's important to keep that in mind as well, that it's not just because a list exists doesn't mean that it's a credible list. So on that note, I think I'll hand over to first Mr. Ajijola, and then I think there are a couple of other people on the panel who want to say 1 or 2 things before we close.
Before I go directly to answering the questions, I would ask Mr. Tolu to deliver a little message for me. I think Mr. Ojobo's presentation highlighted a lot of very useful things that government media practitioners in particular need to imbibe. And forgive me in public, I will be very direct about some names. From time to time, we see a WhatsApp circulating. I don't know, president is going to Ondo State, blah, 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 blah. Then signed, capital letters, Femi Adesina. Who in this hall cannot type such a text message? Who in this hall cannot type such a WhatsApp? Because his name is in capital letters, it makes it original? Come on. Government media practitioners need to step up. Please, tell Mr. Femi Adesina, that government website you're talking about, that thing about president going to Ondo State, at the end of the message, put the URL so that I can go there and check. It's not Mr. Adesina's signature that is my issue. So forgive me, like I said, but you see, all of us have to realize that things have changed. To my brother from Ondo State, I come from a place called Ikare, which is in Akoko, Northeast local government. I typically go home every 6 weeks, or I used to. I've not been, except I think in January I went. Why have I not been? First and foremost, my car, my little car, cannot reach there. Even my big car, I will lose it in the mud. The roads are terrible. The other problem for me to go home, I'm being personal here, to my state, Ondo State, as much as I love the place. I did part of my high school there, and my last year of primary school there. Even my big car cannot go. But more worrisome, there are some particular places. You talk about Magongo in Kogi State. You talk about near Oka in Ondo State. They kidnap people. Look at me. Am I not kidnap prime? I'm looking for money to pay school fees. Now, suddenly my family will be looking for money to release me from kidnappers. So it's very difficult. Even forget social media for a moment. It's very difficult to sell a product that is not really functioning. But it comes back again to an important thing that Mr. Ojobo said. It's about the narrative. If your government social media, one of the things I know about Tolu, though he has been embarrassed here and there once or twice, but I think most of us, most of you, when you follow him online, you sense some genuineness. That is what we want in social media. That is what people look, that's what we follow. So, yes, you are here and, we praise you. Maybe they will give us the nice food that somebody hinted to. But really, these are part of the things that we have to take back to not just the villa. It's actually Ondo States, Ikiti States, Ebonyi State, you name it, Kano State, it doesn't matter the state. Somebody also talked about the aura of arrogance, especially in the public service. Yes, I would agree with you. To some extent, there is some of this aura. But don't forget, sometimes it's actually not arrogance, it's ignorance. Guys don't know. And they don't know how to admit they don't know. It's hard, especially to admit on a Facebook page that you have, 2.3 billion potential viewers. I mean, how many of us in this audience, you know the big signboard at Ojo Elegba? That's video signboard. How many of us will go and be putting our HIV status there? Or our marital problems? How many people pass Ojo Elegba in a day? 200,000, 500,000, okay, 1 million. Compare that to Facebook. So we have to also be a bit more, I think, sympathetic. The gentleman that spoke about black is black, very passionate, and I tend to agree with a lot of what he said. But if you will allow me to be a bit pedantic, can anybody tell me, in this part of the hall, what color is the carpet? Anybody? What color is it? No, this, where the high table is, what color is it? Red. Are you sure? Why is it red? Do you know why it is red? From a point of view of physics. It is red because when the spectrum of light shines on it, it absorbs all colors except one. It reflects that color. The color it reflects is red. That's why you see it red. And that is why the red carpet you see is actually not red, because it's driving away the red. So black is not always necessarily black, sir. Sometimes something is black. In physics, something is black because it absorbs all the light and doesn't reflect. Something is white because it reflects all the spectrum of light. So sometimes in life, not everything is black. Not everything is white. One of the things, though, that you brought up, sir, with due respect, and I agree with you, there is a need for government. And there are many examples. I've seen these sites in Malaysia, in America in particular. They are called rumor control pages. It's part of a wider mechanism, and I don't want to go into the details of it, but suffice to say, there are ways to be able to have an early warning system to see some of this fake news as it raises its head before it spreads too much, and then you can put out your counter narrative. So, for example, after some of the hurricanes in America, you see rumors going around that if you apply to so place, you can get a refund for the loss of your property. So you go to the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, their website, one of the sub-pages is a rumor, and you'll say, we have seen this WhatsApp or this message. This is what it says. This is the actual deal, the real issue. And you know that, for example, if you go to the State House website and they say A, it's not that State House can never lie, but you know that the day they lie, that's the day you stop going there. So they know it. So they are not likely to. So I'm just saying that, yes, there is a need even within government. And again, it applies at state level. The one in Malaysia is an interesting site where it is actually run by the equivalent of the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, or NAFDAC in our case. So somebody sends a message around. If you buy this particular spaghetti sauce, it is not halal. And then they bring all the analysis and show that, no, it is approved. It even has the halal seal of approval. So anybody can do this. But yes, in some instances, there is a role for government. In India, I met a young lady, not that kind of meeting. She's actually a policewoman. I wish all of you could watch. I'll look for the video and share it with the organizers. When she talked about, in India, they have people who are killed because of WhatsApp messages, the misunderstandings that arise. And what had to happen was that her own policemen, she was the, is it district officer, or what did they call it? The local police chief for the neighborhood or the local government. And she actually got them to be interacting with the people and educating them on fake news. In fact, in some cases, doing plays, because why? They are functionally illiterate. They can't read or write. So if you send them a manual to read about fake news, they ain't going to read it because they can't. This is police. You've seen an example today. Many of us, I'm sure, our perception of why the military doesn't release the names or numbers of people dead immediately has been explained. Maybe our critique now will be, well, we wish the military had told us this much earlier. We agree. And I think there's a lesson that has been learned even for them. But the point is that, you see, it buttresses why, like my brother, the journalist, had indicated, we need to be a bit more understanding, but also those people who manage the media, as Ojobo had said, need to manage that narrative. I would also want to ask us to be a bit more careful. I've put out suggestion of norms. My brother from Ondo State didn't really like it, didn't really buy it. As Ronald Reagan said, say your own now, put up. If you don't think norms will work, you see, there is a norm in conflict that you don't use chemical weapons. Do people use chemical weapons, yes or no? They do. Norms get to be broken, we agree. But the point I'm just trying to make is that let us set them. Today, because we didn't set norms for how we do things at parties, people go and spray our naira. If we have a mechanism where we can develop a norm to say, look, this thing is not, we don't appreciate it. We're not saying ban it. By the time people start to spray and nobody cheers them, nobody raises them up, they won't bother. Who wants to waste money? They are spraying the money because they want to impress you. If you are not impressed, they will not do it. So sometimes society, and again, this is far beyond government. It's about you. You must do it. Not these one or two people from government. Who are they? They are minority. How many public servants in this country? Is it 1 million? Is it 10 million? How many are you? 200 million. You want 10 million people to solve your problem? No. We have to solve some of these things ourselves. Is it easy, sir? No. It will take time. It will take blood, sweat, and tears. I'm not proposing an easy solution because there is none. It took us years to get to where we are. It will take us a few years to get out. But very importantly, as I said when I started, using Mr. Femi Adesina as an example, we have to understand that the world has changed forever. Again, like Tony Ojobo said, social media is such a fantastic disruptor for good, but also for bad. So, if you, sir, have alternate platforms, I think we are all here to listen. The platform that I am seeing as doable in the long run are, first, you set norms. Over time, those norms become established as regulations. After some time, they are now able to codify as law. If you try from the first day to codify them as law, you will fail. Because I will be among the people to stand up and shout, please don't infringe on my privacy. But over time, if I see that, look, oh, I shouldn't indulge in, I mean, it's like pornography. Maybe there are some people here, when they indulge in pornography, it's among a small circle of friends. They don't spread it because there's a norm. That psychological limit, my brother, trust me, is far more powerful than any law. After all, the Almighty made the 10 Commandments, and we break them all the time. So if we break the Almighty's law, you know, what is National Assembly? Thank you.
Hello. I'm here to talk from the private sector perspective. Now, I seem to differ a bit about the way we perceive certain things, and I would explain why. In every football pitch, there are people, and that's the way I see life. Life is like a football pitch where you have players, and then you have, if you're not a player, you are either a commentator or a spectator. That's the same way every structure is. If you're not an architect, you're a bricklayer. It's a choice. If you're not a script writer, you're a script follower. It's a choice. So I think everybody's busy saying, government, what should government do? Government, we expect this from government. What are you doing? I think it's good. See, you can't give what you don't have. And as individuals, the government is not in charge of your phones. You are in charge of your phones. So it's good to begin to take responsibility of the things you post. So look at it that if you're not a script writer, then you are or would likely be a script sharer. Learn to take responsibility for what you do. I seem to buy into my brother in blue. What are you, ask yourself questions. What are you pushing? If you're just sitting down as a consumer, waiting for the next news, next set of news to come, and then you begin to argue whether it's fake or not fake, or then you would keep running a bricklayer law, which you're not being active, or you're not being a player. That would help to counter the fake news or what you perceive as fake. Create your own content. Everybody should begin to understand how to write scripts, how to use the person that at least you saw whatever news that you're seeing as fake, you saw it on a platform. If it's Facebook, then create your own counter narrative and put it on the same platform. Or you can come out as a representative of the government and run a 1-minute video. But once, if I say you should run a 1-minute video now, quite a number of people will say, oh, I'm stage shy. Are you stage shy in front of your camera? You're not stage shy when it comes to taking selfies. You're not stage shy when it comes to gossip. You're not stage shy when it comes to sharing what you don't even know the source. I think it's good to understand that once you can start with an introduction so that at least it has a face, it is traceable, you're proud of it, and you can defend it. Then introduce yourself, state what you want, or state the cause you want shared, or you want to. And let me give an example. There was something that happened some years ago about Ebola. And someone, you know, Nigerians are very creative. I don't know where they get these things from. How many of us got the text of salt? Swallow, drink, and then bath, shower with salt. See, a lot of people died. You know let me tell you what happened. You know, when you open someone up and you see the intestines, you can compare to an earthworm. When you put salt on that earthworm, whatever you think or you can imagine would happen to that earthworm was what we met inside people. So you will see it cut into bits, into pieces, and that was just from what? WhatsApp. I think it even got to some other social media handles. So it's when it gets to you, you need to take a personal responsibility. If you share this, or can you defend it? We're talking about good governance. If you can by yourself weigh whatever info is coming to you and ask, is it positive? Is it productive? Is it constructive? I think it will go a long way to sharing good news or positive news. Let me end here. Thank you very much for listening.
We have these two politicians, and they were in a plane, possibly boarded from Abuja to Lagos. And somehow they got to somewhere in Edo State and saw a lot of people arguing. Oh, this government is not doing anything. Oh, this is why I don't have money. And one of the politicians said, you know what? These people, they don't have anything. Maybe I should drop 500 Naira notes for them. And the other politician was like, why should you drop 500 Naira notes? Why not make it 1,000 Naira notes? And the other guy like, no, I work hard for this money. And the other one said, no, you didn't work hard for it, because when you were campaigning, you promised heaven and earth, and you gave some money out. Now this is part of the money. You can equally give some money out. And the pilot looked at the two of them, and I said, I can actually throw the two of you down to their midst so that they can have all the money that you have in your pocket and everybody can be happy. Right? What does this tell us? It tells us one simple thing, that everybody wants to live a good life. And everybody needs the right information. But you need to understand the space where you operate. So, I'll talk about the issue of boundary first. The politicians know that our boundary will be to come up with some fake news, some hate speech, in order to get public sympathy, in order to equally win people to our sides. But the public equally want good life. But when you look at the number of people, when you look at our population and the number of the poor in our midst, then it becomes a challenge for them to make the right decision or to make the wrong decision. And when that happens, vote buying will increase. When that happens, between taking the right decision and taking the wrong decision, then you vote the wrong people into power. When that happens, you have a bad perception about the government. So it's a two-way thing, okay? Each and every one of us need to understand the area where we operate. If you are a private sector, you work in the engineering, use the social media to talk about the good things that are happening, challenge the government about the wrong thing, and equally do a follow-up. A lot of journalists push out stories out there without, with all due respect to the journalists, I know we have the good ones, okay, but they push story out without verifying. You find it on this site, you copy it, and you paste it on your site. And you send it to a lot of people to share. Okay, if it is true, if it is not, you don't really know. We have journalists that that cannot really say, okay, this is the industry I'm operating. My stories is going to be on roads, my story is going to be on health, my story is going to be on ICT. So when you define your space, when you have boundary for yourself, okay, then you can be able to say, you can follow up on issues. Excuse me. You can follow up on issues, and equally you can get the right answer. Most times when people go to the internet to source for information, just of recent, I don't know how many of us saw that there's this story about FCT people in the FCT need to be very careful because of no, it's not because of earthquake. One thing, but the point I'm trying to bring out there is that the date on that letter was 2015. Okay, and even in my own church, it was posted on the church forum. Okay, by the leadership of the church, and later somebody now drew the attention of them to oh, I apologize. So it tells you that people are always in a hurry to consume what is not real. So we need to check the source of the information. Most publications online, you can actually see the date of publication. And on the government side, government should try as much as possible to get their information up to date, and possibly with a follow-ups. There are some websites that you can't really say if it's dormant. There are some websites that, maybe the license or the subscription got expired, and it takes a journalist to write a story that of all 10 government parastatals under a particular ministry is only one that has a functioning website. And that's when the head of that organization will be running a tasketa that I want that resolved. We shouldn't wait for that. If we want to use social media for good governance, we need to be active, we need to be timely in terms of information we push out. The information needs to be well coordinated. Mr. Ajajola has talked about there's need for you to put a link for it to be verified, especially when you are circulating it on the mobile phones. So these are very, very important. And I believe that all of us can actually make Nigeria a good place if only we all agree to work together. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I'd like to thank everyone seated on the panel. We really appreciate you being here today, and we appreciate your contribution. Then I'd like to thank everybody in the audience. The same thing, we appreciate you being here today, and we appreciate your contributions. I must say that we're gathered here today for social media for good governance. And it's about the way we in government use social media to interact with the general public. Hence why we have people from private sector here today. How do we respond to the general public? How do we even listen to their views and their opinions? As the speakers before me have said, are our websites up to date? Are our social media handles up to date? Are we interacting with the general public? Are we putting out the right information? When we see wrong information about our organizations, do we put out a disclaimer? Do we verify information before sharing it? XYZ is dead. Everybody starts sharing it. Have we gone on reputable websites to verify this information? I also received this 2015 notification, and I was very saddened to check the names of those that sent it to me, because there are people that I trusted and respected, and I expected them to at least take a few seconds to check the date on the letter before sharing it. So as said before, once one is a source of information for you and you receive wrong information, misinformation from that particular source, that source now loses credibility. I'm sorry to say, but we wouldn't see wrong information on CNN or BBC. You know, we try to verify on those particular sources just to ensure before we share that information. Let's make our own organization websites and social media handles as credible as those ones. If we hear information of Ministry of Health or Defense, we should believe immediately we go onto their website or to their Twitter handle, we can find out whether this information is true or false. So if I get a WhatsApp broadcast from Ministry of Communications, the first place I want to go is their Twitter handle, because I believe it's updated in real time. And then I'll go to their website, which I know might not be updated hourly, but at least is updated regularly. The same should speak for all our websites and handles. Tomorrow, I would ask everyone to please come along with their laptops. We're going to be having some live training. We have the trainers. The trainers were here today. They'll be here tomorrow. As I said, we will receive certificates afterwards. I must also bring to our attention that one of our agencies is in charge of our development of the social media framework, which is by name of NITDA. So we will be working closely with NITDA to develop and implement this social media framework. As I said, certificates will be available at the end of tomorrow. If you would like to pick up one of these certificates, please see them at the registration desk. Also, I got some information from the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. There's a website for e-participation, www.eparticipation.gov.ng, or the osgf.gov.ng. You can visit those websites for more information. I believe that's everything. Yes, I must also bring out that we in the government, Tolu included, are putting up a committee of social media handlers. We will be working with social media handlers at ministry level or state level. If you would like to join this committee, please see one of us at the end of this meeting. And the committee will be gathering the relevant information, helping, working with NITDA to put together the framework, and we'll be cascading it down to all levels of government. So if you do want to get involved, please see one of us at the end of this. Yes, finally, that's a close. We do hope to see you here tomorrow morning by 9 o'clock. Classes start immediately, and we do hope everyone can walk away from this with a lot more information than when you came. Social media for good governance is about how the government can use social media effectively to educate the public, and how we can learn from the public on what exactly we need us to do for them. So I hope today has been awesome for everybody. Thank you so much for coming, and have a wonderful evening.